Okay, this is a continuation of adding interactivity to Flash. So far, you've had a button that takes you to a certain place on a movie clip's timeline. And to demonstrate that again, you should, by this point, have something like that. This one button, you might have done the rollover effect. You may not have, it's up to you. You might have done the animated butterfly that you saw earlier as well. But that's as far as you can go at this point. We want to be able to go back in this case. So I had to make another button. And it's quite easy to do. You can grab, if you like the button that you want and you want a consistent navigational button, it's pretty simple. Right click on the library and you can duplicate that button. That button won't come with the code or the instance name. Now I've only duplicated it this time, but in the case of your task, you might want to make custom buttons for each page. Or if you're doing page turning or options, you might consider differences there in your buttons as well. So you need to consider consistency. So I've added this one button. It's symbol one copy. It's good to name them though, so I'm going to go back in and name this one just to say that it's page 1. Gesundheit. And this one is home button, and I'll just remember which one it is because you might reuse this type of button. If you say turn page button, then we can just grab it whenever we need it and add the instance name. Oops, a Mayo button. I've gone a bit dyslexic there. There we go. Fix that up. So I've added it to the stage by dragging it on, and you'll notice that if I click on it, I've given it an instance name. So I'm making sure my instance names are meaningful as well. Now, we need to include it in our action script, but we also need to make sure we've got the right labels in our movie clip. And if I double click on the movie clip, you remember that you can go inside the movie clip timeline by double clicking on it. We know that I've got 2 instances at this point if I drag the playhead across. And some labels. So the label for this scene, for the home scene, is black because I was using the colors at this point as if I was choosing colors. So I've got black. I should call it home in reality, so I'm going to call it home. And I added a layer of text, you might have noticed. So it's just basically adding a new layer, calling it text, and putting some text in. The text only appears on that one layer. It's sort of pointless to appear here anyway. It's the same color. But maybe I'll put in a keyframe. Delete that one. And we'll call this one page 2. That's not a very good color for that background. Make it black. Sort of alternate. So now I know that I'm on the home screen, on the page 2 screen, when I'm moving backwards and forwards. The label for the home screen is home. Label for page 2 is green. I'm going to change that now. I'm going to call it page 2. I need to be consistent because we need to know what we're calling our scenes or screens or movie clips in a consistent way. So I'll go back to my scene, open up my action script, and we have page 1 button and home button. So I've already added the event listener for it. And I've got a function called home for that button. So now I should be able to toggle. Oop, I've got a problem. And this is really important. When you do get a problem, have a little look up here in the output. it's telling me frame label green not found. So it was looking for green. Remember how I changed the name? So we'll go back into the actions. There, that one. What did I call it? That's it, yeah. So I need to change that. And debugging can be some of the hardest parts of actually putting these sorts of things together. If you take this as far as making a game, you've got some major debugging to do. I'm not expecting that for your Year 11 project though. So I'll try again. And I can now toggle between these. Now, what's the point of having my page 2 button here? Well, it won't, because its function is to go to page 2. It's sort of redundant, isn't it? Yeah. So we need it to disappear. So if I go back into my actions, I'm going to make the home button visibility false at the top. So when Flash loads, it makes that button disappear. The page 2 button will appear. But when I go to page 2, I should call this function page 2 actually, so I'm going to just change that as well. Again, consistency. And maybe I'll put an underscore, because remember you can't call things the same thing. Okay, so you can't call an object the same name as a different object. Generally, it causes confusion for Flash. So you need to come up with a protocol for labeling a function, labeling a button, all those sorts of things. So I'm putting the underscore in this case, and I made sure I put it in the function here. So, got around that. My home button should be invisible when I start, but when I click my page 2 button, what do I want? You want the page 2 button to disappear, definitely, but what do I want to appear? The home button, so I can go back, yeah. So to do that, we put in the function page 2. So when I click on my page 2 button, the home button, visibility equals true. What do I want with my page 2 button though? False. That's correct. Or page, again, let's fix that up, which means I've got to fix it in my identifier. But at least I'm being consistent now. So you can toggle visibility. Now when I click my home button though, what's going to happen? I didn't hear through the yawn. Well, it's going to work. I'm going to go back to the home button, which is fine. But what's happened with the page 2 button? Yeah, it'll disappear. It's like it only gets one use. You see what I mean? So when we do press the home button, we need to make sure that we make the page 2 button visible again. And that way they'll toggle on and off. Do you understand that? Yep, so far? All right, before this will work, I've got to make sure I rename this one to page 2. And let's see how it goes. Yep. Oh, something happened. Yeah. So when I clicked the page 2 button, something was missing. I've also got duplicate layer. See this duplicate label? Remember I said it's good to have very different names. Got to make sure we try and come up with a convention for that. So let's check my actions. So this is good. Yep. Oh, wait a moment. When I click home, the home button's still going to appear, isn't it? So we go back again. Home btn dot visible equals what? Yeah. Pretty simple at this point because we're only really talking about 2 buttons. But you'll see later when you're doing multiple scenes that you've got to be really careful which ones you're turning on and off. And this is why the naming convention's really important. It's really important. When code gets really long, you want to be able to find things fast. So if you just sort of go, I'm going to call this next button that, which I've seen a lot of students do, in terms of naming their files when they save it to their home drive. Just go, oh, it's this. I can't be bothered thinking about it. It's not going to work for you. You really do need to think about what you call your identifiers or labels. So, I suggest you give that a go, and the challenge is to make 3 separate frames to navigate to. So you're going to have 3 buttons, but we should only ever see 2 buttons at any one time. Okay? Is there code on Edmodo?